Peace, family. I'm back with another one. If you saw the one I did on Oklahoma Sooners or the Boomer Sooners, every blue moon, I'm going to drop some bells on these teams, these sports teams, and the history behind these logos and these labels and the hidden truth. And so this one, I'm going to go over the Florida Gators and the history of Florida using so-called black babies as alligator bait or melanated babies as alligator bait. And so without holding y'all, as I always say, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you like the content, if you're a returning viewer, as always, I appreciate you for checking out the platform, helping me build this platform. Without holding y'all, we're going to jump straight into it. Peace and love, family.
On behalf of Akuno Call for Bait, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope. H-O-P-E. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, you know? Every day, one step at a time, man. We're gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice, focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate and seeking knowledge, make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
Peace, family. This is the shocking history of babies being used as alligator bait by Yewande Ade. This was published June 13, 2022. Many unfortunate events happened to black men and women during the slave trade era. One of them was the use of their children as bait to catch alligators. Alligator bait, also known as gator bait, was said to have been practiced in the swamp in Florida and Louisiana during the 1800s and 1900s. Back then, alligator hunting was a profitable business, and the bodies of the alligators were used to make shoes, belts, bags, and other related items. As Face-to-Face Africa reports, some white hunters lost their arms and in worst cases lost their lives as they wrestled with swampy waters at night attempting to attract alligators to the surface. Pictures, trinkets, and postcards were also sold to commemorate this dark, evil practice. Jim Crow Museum of Racist Memorabilia is often cited as a source of documentation because it contains artifacts and some other pieces of evidence of this gory act. Indeed, there is a sufficient documentation to show that during the slave trade era, black babies were used as alligator bait. To buttress further claims that such a horrendous incident ever happened, there are different newspaper articles that give credits to actual occurrence of such dreadful acts. For instance, in 1908, the Washington Times newspaper confirmed the existence of the gator bait in the title, Bait Alligators with Pickaninnies, where two black children had been used as alligator bait. This is the article right here. Baits Alligators with Pickaninnies, zoo specimens caught the summer quarters by plump little Africans. At that time, the New York Zoological Garden zookeeper had sent two children to an enclosure with about 25 crocodiles and alligators. People watched as the hungry reptiles chased the children. A major reason for the use of black kids was because the zookeeper believed that the alligators had a peculiar fondness for the black man. Now, as mentioned earlier, this is from the Miami New Times. It says Black Babies Used as Alligator Bait in Florida by Chuck Strauss, February 3rd, 2014. The slaves who had babies, they would steal the babies during the course of the day, sometimes when their mothers weren't watching. Some would be infants. Some would be a year old, he said. Some would be toddlers. He said they would grab these children and take them down to the swamp and leave them in pens like little chicken coops. They would go down there at night, take these babies and tie them up, put a rope around their neck and around their torso, around her, and tie it up. They'd be screaming. What they were doing would help them to chum the water. He said when they would throw the babies and tie it up to this rope, he said in a matter of minutes, he said the alligators were on them. He said the gators would clamp the jaws of the child. As a matter of fact, once he clamped on them, he was really swallowed. He said you couldn't see nothing but the rope. Some would be infants, some would be a year old toddlers, some would be infants. gonna end it with the Florida Gators, but I couldn't find nothing long enough. I didn't want to give y'all just 4 minutes of a video. So I'm also going to the code Noir, black codes, also the Flower de Luce or Fleur de Lis. They pronounce it differently in French, but the New Orleans Saints logo. Y'all know this logo right here. And so again, Florida Gators. If you watch my video about King Louis XIV, I'm tying back in history, giving y'all some more knowledge. So we're gonna jump straight into it. The 1724 Louisiana Code Noir. To regulate relations between slaves and colonists, the Louisiana Code Noir, or Slave Code, based largely on that compiled in 1685 for French Caribbean colonies, was introduced in 1724 and remained in force until the United States took possession of Louisiana in 1803. The code's 54 articles regulate the status of slaves and free blacks, as well as relations between masters and slaves. The entire body of law appears below. The Black Codes of Louisiana decrees the expulsion of Jews from the colony, makes it imperative on masters to impart religious instructions on their slaves. It's number 2. Go back to the video I just uploaded here recently on the Moors. The Moriscos were those who were forced into Christianity. And so again, number 2, make it imperative that the masters impart religious instructions on their slaves. Number 3 is also important. Permits the exercise of Roman Catholic creed only. Every other mode of worship is prohibited. And so the only thing that was allowed was Christianity, the Roman Catholic codes, or Roman Catholic creeds. Negroes placed under the direction of supervision or any other person other than Catholic are liable for confiscation. Sundays and holidays are to be strictly observed. All Negroes found at work on these days are to be confiscated. This one is important. Pay attention. We forbid our white subjects of both sexes to marry with the blacks under the penalty of being fined and subjected to some other arbitrary punishment. We forbid all curates, priests, and missionaries of our secular or regular clergy, and even our chaplains in any of our navy to sanction such marriages. We also forbid all our white subjects and even the manipulated or free-born blacks to live in a state of concubinage with blacks. Should there be any issues from this kind of intercourse, it is our will that the persons so offending and the masters of that slave should pay each a fine of 300 livres. Should said issue be the result of concubinage of the master and his slave, said master should not only pay the fine, but be deprived of their slave and other children. I mean, I've read all 54. I actually had a Black Christian codes, but it says, and so I'm trying to find the ones that are important. We forbid our curates to proceed the effects of marriage between slaves without proof of consent of their masters. And we also forbid all masters to force their slaves into marriage against their will. That's why you got to have a marriage license. You got to go through them to get married. I mean, there's so much in here. Children issued from the marriage of slaves shall follow the conditions of their parents and shall belong to the master of the wife and not to the husband, if the husband and wife have different masters. If the husband be a slave and the wife be a free woman, it is our will that their children of whatever sex they may be shall share the conditions of their mother and be as free as she, notwithstanding the servitude of their father. Again, let's go into the burials. Why do we bury our people under the ground? It says right here, masters shall have their Christian slaves buried in consecrated grounds. This is why we're buried under the ground. This wasn't the way of our ancestors. Masters shall have their Christian slaves buried in consecrated grounds. Why are they so strict about so-called blacks having weapons? We forbid our slaves to carry offensive weapons or heavy sticks under the penalty of being whipped and having said weapons confiscated for the benefit of the person seizing the same. And so again, an exception is made in favor of those slaves who are sent a hunting or a shooting by their masters and who carry them with a written permission. I did a video the other day talking about permits and permission. So you got to have a gun permit. I mean, it's so much in here. Why do you have the license to sell? Why do you think that they destroy all the businesses that we try to build? And why you think you got to go through so much to own or to open a business? We forbid Negroes to sell any commodities, provisions, or produce of any kind without the written permission of their masters, or without wearing their known marks or badges, and any persons purchasing anything from Negroes in violence of this article shall be sentenced to pay a fine. I want to keep reading this because I want to show y'all this logo. I want to show y'all how this symbol right here. In the 18th and 19th century, white Americans used the flower de lis to exert power over slaves, branding the symbol into their right shoulder of those who had attempted to run away. And so this was a symbol used on runaway slaves. And what they be doing out there on their football field, running. I was running like Forrest. We're going to check out this video, and I'm going to go ahead and end it with this video. Shout out to the YouTube channel Symbol Sage for the video.
Whether you know its name or not, chances are you have seen the fleur-de-lis before. The fleur-de-lis is everywhere. In fact, it's so ubiquitous that we hardly notice it anymore. But where did this symbol come from, and what does it mean? We can't attribute the creation of the fleur-de-lis to any single civilization or location, because no one really knows when it was first created. References to it can be found in historical documents from Babylonia, India, Rome, and Egypt. During these times, the fleur-de-lis was known by different names, and as a pagan symbol, it had various meanings. Over time, the symbol's meaning changed as it became associated with the Frankish kings in the 5th century. One legend states that the Virgin Mary gave a lily to Clovis, the king of the Franks. Another legend says that it was an angel that presented a golden lily to Clovis. In both cases, it represented his conversion to Christianity and the resulting purification of his soul. The Franks, under Clovis I, converted from Frankish paganism to Roman Catholicism. Their tribes were unified into a kingdom, which became known as France, and the fleur-de-lis became Clovis's symbol. The name fleur-de-lis comes from the French word for the lily flower. The visual representation is a stylistic rendering of a lily. It has 3 petals, with the center petal being larger and more pointed. But there are several variations to its design, and no single one is accepted as the official version. With the many uses of the fleur-de-lis, it is hard to find a single meaning for the symbol itself. The main associations of the symbol come from the lily and anything connected with triplicities. It has been associated with royalty, peace, war, politics, sports, religion. It's believed to symbolize purity, light, perfection, life, the Virgin Mary, the Holy Trinity, the natural world, beauty, and sophistication. While some Christians view the fleur-de-lis as a pagan symbol, many Catholics see it as part of Christian iconography. This is because the lily represents purity and has been used since ancient times as a symbol of the Virgin Mary. The 3-petal design of the symbol also represents the Holy Trinity, with the base representing the Virgin Mary. Up until the 1300s, many depictions of Jesus contain the fleur-de-lis. The symbol's association with Clovis also further strengthens it as a Christian symbol. However, the fleur-de-lis has a troubled history. Because it was a symbol of the French monarchy, during the French Revolution, the fleur-de-lis was used as a symbol of those who supported the monarchy versus those who supported the Democratic Republic. It became known as the flower of the French Revolution, associating it with the ills of the nobility. But the most controversial use of the symbol was as a brand for slaves and criminals. In France, the symbol was used to brand criminals as a punishment involving banishment sentences. From there, the use of the fleur-de-lis became codified as part of a set of regulations that was used in French colonies. This was adopted by the state of Louisiana in 1724, while it was still under French control. In this way, it became associated with supremacy, racism, and the dehumanization of others. Today, the fleur-de-lis continues to be a popular decorative motif, whether used on coats of arms of countries or as a gate topper. But its connection to slavery and to supremacy makes it a controversial symbol. What do you think of the fleur-de-lis? Let us know in the comments below.